They arrived without warning. The sky tore itself open in the middle of a June morning, casting daylight into a strange violet hue. Cities around the world fell silent as a shadow passed over the earth. Colossal ships, smooth and obsidian, moving like predators over prey. They didn't speak, at least not at first. Humanity simply watched as the vessels descended, slow and deliberate, until they hovered over capital cities, military installations, power grids. Within hours, the world changed. From orbit, a signal blared in every major language. The translation was emotionless, clinical, as if read by a bored observer. We are the Court Hari. You are now within the domain of the ascendant species. Your defiance is obsolete. Compliance is expected. Most thought it was a bluff. Within the halls of the United Nations, there was outrage, then frantic strategizing. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, all debating retaliation or diplomacy. In the end, Earth chose to respond with restraint. They sent messages, opened channels, offered peaceful negotiation. The Court Hari didn't answer. When the first strike came, it wasn't from humans. One of the alien ships released a pulse over a European military base, silencing all electronics in a 5-mile radius. No one died, but thousands were rendered blind, deaf, and voiceless by the EMP and sonic distortion. It was a demonstration. Hours later, Earth's militaries responded. Missiles launched from every continent. Fighter jets streaked the sky. Satellite-guided artillery found its mark. None of it mattered. The missiles crumbled mid-air. Jets exploded in silent, shimmering flashes. The Court Hari ships hovered above the chaos, untouchable, shields distorting around them like mirages. From a feed intercepted in the Pentagon, the world saw one of them up close, a Court Hari commander, tall, armored in a smooth organic alloy that shifted in subtle motion across its skin. No eyes, only slits of glowing azure where a face might be. It stood amidst the wreckage of a downed tank, turning it over with one hand like a child might examine a toy. Then, in flawless English, it spoke to the human forces pinned down around the site. Your weapons amuse us. You wage war like primitives. This planet resists for sport, not survival. Do not confuse our patience for weakness. Across the globe, the message echoed. Soldiers fell back. Governments went quiet. The resistance had turned from coordinated to desperate. No tactic worked. No formation held. But not everyone was ready to surrender. 1,000 miles from the nearest command center, hidden in the woods of Montana, a man named Reeve Tannen watched the footage from a flickering laptop screen. Mid-40s, lean but wiry, face weathered by desert sun and mountain storms. He sat alone in a remote cabin, surrounded by silence that wasn't fear, but calculation. He didn't flinch at the Court-Hari's speech. He didn't panic when the video cut to static. He simply leaned back in his chair, tapped the corner of a worn photo. 3 men in desert camo, squinting into a sandstorm, and sighed. They have no idea, he muttered. 2 years retired, 10 years special forces, and before that, a name whispered across battlefields where precision mattered more than volume. His file was sealed, scrubbed from active records. Most just called him Ghost. When the call finally came, encrypted, routed through an untraceable relay, it was short. We need you. He answered with a single word. When, back in orbit, the Court Hari War Council watched Earth's resistance crumble with casual indifference. Their warriors, towering and disciplined, mock human defenses in private gatherings. The term metal rain became a slur for Earth's projectiles, bullets that bounced harmlessly off their armor. Combat footage circulated among alien ranks like entertainment, each engagement punctuated with laughter at Earth's futility. But their commander, Vale Soren, a decorated tactician of 100 planetary subjugations, warned them, Arrogance is a seed of downfall, he told his officers, though even he grinned at the footage. Still, I welcome challenge. Let them show us their best. His words would haunt him soon, because that best was already watching. From a hillside overlooking a new Courthari outpost in Nevada, Reeve lay prone, body still as the rocks beneath him. He scanned the alien movement through a high-powered scope, fingers wrapped around a rifle not found in any Army catalog. Modified frame, custom chambering, hand-machined parts. It was not meant for battle. It was built for a single purpose. He watched them move with mechanical precision, confident, unguarded, too confident. He counted patrol rotations, mapped energy shield pulses, studied the way the armor flexed when exposed to atmospheric conditions. He watched long enough to learn, and in learning, he saw something the Courthari hadn't, a flaw. His finger hovered near the trigger guard, not a fire, but to measure a single breath, wind correction, thermal distortion. Then he backed away. He wasn't ready yet, but soon. As night fell, the Courthari base pulsed with eerie light, unaware that something ancient and invisible had begun stalking them. Not with ships or soldiers, but with patience sharpened to a needlepoint. Far above, on the bridge of the command ship, Vale Soren stared at a screen showing Earth's surface. His officers debated when to make their final push, when to break the last symbols of resistance. He waved them quiet and turned his gaze toward a mountain range, barely a speck in the corner of the map. Let them believe, he said. Let them hope. We'll burn it away. Reeve, kneeling beside his rifle as the stars wheeled overhead, smiled to himself. Come closer, he whispered. The hunt had begun. The sun had barely begun to rise when Reeve settled into position. He lay motionless atop a ridge overlooking the Courthari forward base, near the ruins of what used to be a high-security research facility. The earth below had been flattened and scorched, reshaped by alien machines into an efficient, angular complex of black alloy and humming towers. Through the scope of his rifle, he watched the creatures move, always in precise lines, always according to a rhythm only they understood. He'd been here for 3 nights. Silent, unseen. In that time, he'd counted the rotations of patrols, logged thermal emissions from their shielding units, observed their shifts, even noticed how the lower-ranking Courthari twitched when left alone for too long. They were disciplined, but not invulnerable. Reeve saw the spaces between their routines, the human oversight in their alien perfection. Most importantly, he saw the commander. The target wore a variant of the standard armor, same living alloy, but laced with reflective, almost translucent outer shell. It distorted light around it, bending color and shadow to cloak movement. Reeve didn't need to see its face to know it was the one in charge. The others deferred to it. It never looked back when issuing commands. Power didn't need to explain itself. He adjusted his scope. The wind had calmed to a slow breath across the valley. No heat shimmer. No acoustic interference. Reeve's rifle, long and lean, rested on a tripod buried in stone. Custom subsonic rounds sat in the chamber. He'd spent months perfecting the blend of tungsten core and experimental coating designed to fracture kinetic barriers. No electronics. No guidance. Pure physics. He exhaled. At 2,400 meters, the shot required more than marksmanship. It demanded a communion with the environment, distance, pressure, humidity, even the minute expansion of the barrel under morning chill. But Reeve didn't calculate anymore. He felt it. The trigger clicked. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, in the center of the alien base, the commander's head vanished in a flash of vaporized armor and blue mist. Panic surged through the Courthari ranks. The once flawless formations fractured. Troops rushed to secure perimeters. Drones launched into the sky, sweeping wildly. Reeve had already moved. By the time the first drone reached his former position, he was 2 clicks south, rifle broken down into components, face scrubbed clean of thermal residue. He didn't need to see the chaos unfold. He could already hear it over intercepted comms. They do not miss. One Courthari barked. Another, clipped and shaken. We saw no launch. No light, no sound. Reeve hiked higher into the ridge, mind quiet, body instinct. He didn't smile. Not yet. This wasn't about satisfaction. This was a beginning. Word spread fast. In hushed, coded radio signals between human resistance groups, the news rippled like wildfire. The alien commander, the one that had mocked Earth defenses on live feeds, was dead. No one saw the shooter. No trace was left behind. Someone had done the impossible. They called him the Ghost. Among Cordari leadership, the response was immediate and aggressive. Strike zones were mapped. Sniper detection grids were deployed across all active sectors. Dozens of human settlements were raided in retaliation, hoping to flush out whoever had pierced their armor. But Reeve didn't return to any camp. He moved alone to the shadows of mountain forests and empty roads. Old allies slipped him supplies, food, ammunition, cloaking nets. No conversation. No questions. He'd become more myth than man, and he preferred it that way. Each day brought a new target. Logistics officers, energy relay technicians, communications specialists. Reeve struck only when the equation was perfect. No variables, no unnecessary risk. He vanished before the bodies hit the ground. The Cordari, unaccustomed to asymmetric warfare, began to crack. They'd built their campaign around overwhelming force, not surgical precision, against a man who didn't exist in their data. Their technology meant nothing. Reeve knew their movements now, their pulse. He learned how their shielding faltered for a fraction of a second during atmospheric recalibration. He studied how their biomechanical skin absorbed vibrations but couldn't suppress shock. Every encounter was an education, and Reeve never failed a test. In one remote ambush, he took down a 5-man scout team, using only a bolt-action rifle and the echo of falling ice. He left behind nothing but empty casings, each placed deliberately in the shape of an X. The Cordari began whispering, though they had no mouths. They named him called Tor, Death Between Seconds. Within a week, alien morale shifted. Field reports showed increased hesitation during routine operations. Patrols doubled. Senior officers refused to appear outdoors without full escort. One of them even requested planetary withdrawal. Vale Soren refused. The human is a relic, he told the War Council. A lucky anomaly. We erase him like we erase all noise. But he watched the footage. Again and again. Slow motion. Frame by frame. Nothing. No muzzle flare. No trajectory. Just the fall of the commander's body. Soren clenched his fists. Find him, he ordered. Make him bleed. But Reeve had no intention of bleeding. He was already preparing the next shot. And this time, it wasn't just about tactics or retaliation. It was a message. They had underestimated Earth's firepower. Now, they would learn to fear its silence. The Cordari adapted fast, but not fast enough. Within days of the first high-value kills, alien engineers rolled out a suite of countermeasures. Hovering drones equipped with vibration sensors, scanning beams that shimmered across forests like a second sun, and noise suppression fields that dampened even the sound of wind against branches. They deployed all of it in one coordinated effort across 3 active outposts. Reeve watched from the high ground, eyes steady through the scope. They'd overcompensated. Every device glowed, buzzed, or hovered with mechanical arrogance that betrayed its own position. He noted the drone flight patterns, the regular sweep of scanning beams. Their defensive grid looked impressive, but it was built on assumptions. Assumptions about where a sniper should shoot from. Reeve never did what was expected. That night, he crawled through a drainage tunnel beneath the western perimeter, rifle broken down and wrapped in sound-dampening cloth. The ground was slick, rank with alien lubricant runoff. The tunnel ended just shy of an auxiliary generator hub. No guards. They relied too heavily on machines. He assembled his rifle in the dark. The target, a Cordari logistics overseer, critical to coordinating the planetary supply chain. He emerged from a hub's command center every 23 hours for a 3-minute atmospheric recalibration. Reeve had watched him do it twice. The third time he was ready. The shot echoed only in the silence that followed. The overseer collapsed mid-step, the back of his armor blown open like paper. By the time alarms blared, Reeve was gone, slipping back through the drainage system before the drones could triangulate. In response, the Court sealed all ground-level access points, reinforced shield zones, and instituted 24-hour aerial surveillance. But the cracks had widened. The more they chased the ghost, the more resources they pulled from their offensive campaign. Bases once swarming with activity now bristled with anxiety. Troopers moved in packs, their heads twitching at every gust of wind. Meanwhile, Reeve had begun teaching. In abandoned warehouses and hidden bunkers, he passed on tactics to resistance fighters, how to read terrain like a story, how to count steps by feel, how to disappear. These weren't ordinary soldiers. Most were engineers, students, retired hunters. But under Reeve's guidance, they became surgical instruments, not an army, something leaner, sharper. They didn't try to hold ground. They took pieces of it and vanished. In Kenya, a sniper cell downed a Court scout skiff mid-landing using only a pair of rifles and a shattered mirror. In Argentina, a team disabled a relay tower by firing a precisely timed shot that caused an overload cascade. These were more than tactics. They were symbols. Earth wasn't defenseless. The Court, for all their power, had become reactive. Their campaign faltered as they devoted more effort to shielding themselves and conquering. Morale plummeted. Some junior commanders refused surface deployment entirely. Reeve wasn't satisfied. He wanted the core. Intel from resistance networks finally delivered what he needed: a mobile command unit, disguised beneath a geoform mountain in Nevada, operating as a coordination hub for continental operations. Inside was a technician responsible for maintaining shield harmonics across several major Court sectors. Kill him, and entire regions would go blind for hours, just long enough. Reeve spent 5 days getting into position. He lived in the dirt. He drank condensation from rocks. He slept in 10-minute intervals. No fire, no movement above the ground line. He timed his breathing with the wind. The technician emerged at dusk for atmospheric adjustment, stepping outside his bunker in a slow, almost bored shuffle. He yawned. The wind picked up. The world stilled. Reeve pulled the trigger. The technician folded it on himself, a crumpling of metal and flesh. For 3 hours afterward, the entire southwestern quadrant of the alien grid flickered in and out like a dying constellation. Resistance cells surged forward in coordinated strikes. Court patrols were cut off, communications jammed, supply drops misrouted into ravines or deserts. The aliens didn't know what had happened. They only knew they were bleeding, and the wound kept opening. Vale Soren watched the reports with cold, coiled fury. His officers argued, some calling for escalation, others whispering about the ghosts in terms once reserved for myth. It wasn't just one man, they said. It couldn't be. No human could know so much, move so fast, strike with such impunity. But Soren knew better. It was one man. He saw in the pattern. Each kill, each calculated blow. There was intent behind it. A message. So he ordered a change. Abandon passive defenses. Commit resources to a single task. Bring me the sniper, he said. Alive. They swept the Rockies with drone formations stacked like insect swarms. They sterilized canyons with plasma bursts, leveled valleys, razed forests. Any human caught in the radius was either captured or reduced to nothing. Still, Reeve stayed ahead, but not untouched. On the 7th day of the sweep, a scout drone caught his heat signature for a half-second. It was enough to redirect a patrol team. Reeve ducked into a ravine, bullets and plasma chasing him through rock and brush. He took a glancing hit to his shoulder. Armor melted into skin. He gritted his teeth, wrapped the wound, and kept moving. They wanted to catch him, make a spectacle, show the humans that their ghosts could bleed. Reeve bled, and he kept moving. He knew this wouldn't end with running. It had to end with a shot, one that no shield could stop, one that would silence everything. And somewhere just out of reach, that target waited, still alive, still watching. The mountain felt like it was holding its breath. Deep within the Sierra crest, the Court Hari had forged their final stronghold, drilling into the earth like termites, replacing stone with alloy, and weaving vast subterranean structures that pulsed with a faint hum of alien energy. Above ground, the landscape remained deceptively untouched. Rugged pines, fractured granite, wind that whispered like it had for centuries. But beneath, at the heart of the mountain, the enemy's command node beat like a second heart. Reeve moved like a phantom across the high ridgelines, a stitch of shadow stitched tightly to the earth. The wound in his left shoulder burned beneath the wrappings, torn muscle, scorched nerves, but it no longer slowed him. Pain had become a companion, not an obstacle. His breathing was shallow, measured. Every footstep placed with precision. After all he'd done, this final act demanded perfection. He was here for Veil Soren, the alien commander who had dismissed Earth's defenses as primitive, who had broadcast his contempt through orbiting satellites, called humans fragile anomalies, the one who'd replaced diplomacy with domination. Tonight, he would stand exposed. The Court Hari had planned a show of strength, one final display meant to restore order within their splintering ranks. They called it the Renewal, a ceremonial address broadcast across every occupied region. Veil Soren would step into the open, flanked by his elite, and reassure his species that dominance would be restored, that the ghost, the sniper who had haunted them for weeks, was nothing more than a myth. Reeve smiled, dry and humorless. Let them believe it. He reached the outcropping he'd scouted 2 nights before, a jagged stone perch overlooking the amphitheater carved into the mountain's southern face. From here, the entire clearing was visible, shimmering energy pylons framing the plaza, tiers of Court Hari soldiers positioned in flawless formation, armor glinting in the moonlight filtered through their atmospheric veil. He unfolded the rifle with reverence. Each piece fit into place with quiet clicks. No scope glare, no signature. He rubbed dust across the barrel to deaden any glint, adjusted for wind shear, accounted for the cold, the drop. He didn't guess anymore. His mind ran the numbers before he even thought to ask. Time slowed. Their movement, Veil Soren, stepping into view at the platform center. No helmet, regal armor polished to a dark luster, etched with command sigils. He raised a hand. The troops stiffened, silent. A hush fell over the valley. Reeve's crosshairs floated to center mass. But he didn't fire. Not yet. He studied the face. Smooth, unreadable. Not monstrous, almost serene. That was what chilled Reeve the most. This wasn't a conqueror foaming with rage or desperation. Veil wore the calm of someone who believed in inevitability. Reeve aimed higher. He slowed his heart, exhaled through his teeth, and let the moment come to him. He squeezed the trigger. The rifle bucked with a soft recoil. In the time it took the sound to register, the back of Veil Soren's head exploded in a silent bloom of silver and violet. His body toppled forward, lifeless, spilling down the steps like discarded armor. The entire assembly froze. Then chaos detonated. Troops scattered, shouting commands that collided and contradicted. Drones launched into the air, sensors sweeping violently in every direction. Searchlights carved through the cliffs, but they were too late. Reeve was already gone. He slid down a narrow chute in the stone, rifle disassembled mid-descent, gear cinched tight to his chest. By the time the first aerial unit passed overhead, he was buried beneath a camo net between frost-covered boulders, heartbeat steady. He waited. When the scanners moved on, he rose and disappeared into the trees. Behind him, the Court Hari began to unravel. Without Veil, their chain of command frayed at every edge. Sub-commanders clashed. Directives contradicted. Squads abandoned their posts to reinforce others, only to find themselves cut off and isolated. Whole regions lost contact with their networks. The carefully orchestrated occupation began to stumble, then collapse. Across the world, resistance groups struck like wolves sensing weakness. Ambushes, raids, sabotage. Targets that only dreamed of hitting now fell with surgical precision. The myth of the ghost had birthed 1,000 blades in the dark. And still, Reeve kept moving. He didn't return to any base, didn't claim any credit. He didn't broadcast a message or leave a symbol this time. The shot had said everything. But the victory felt different. He sat beneath a tree that night, shoulder throbbing, the cold settling deep into his bones. He watched the stars, distant, indifferent. Somewhere above, retreating ships would be charting paths home, carrying the wounded remnants of an empire that had believed itself invincible. They would speak of Earth with confusion, then fear, not because of bombs or fleets, but because of one man, one rifle, one impossible shot. Reeve reached into his pack, pulled out the last strip of ration protein, and chewed slowly. The forest was silent again, not from fear, but peace. Still, he knew this wasn't the end. The Courthari might leave, others might come, but they would remember. And if not, he would remind them, because as long as Earth stood, someone would always be watching, waiting, ready to pull the trigger.